All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome. I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this brief webinar where I will be educating you on the new rules of money and how it intertwines with this thing called the financial shield. Now, in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, he argues that the main reason for disparity between the rich and the poor is the difference in financial literacy and how individuals approach money. So the bottom line here is that the more financial education that you get, the more money you will make and retain. The less financial education that you have, the more money it is going to cost you. So the fact that you're taking time out of your busy schedule to learn a few things that I'm going to teach you about, that tells me that you are well on your way to financial freedom while protecting your income along the way. My name is Rusty Westfall. I was born and raised in a suburb of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a resident of the St. Louis area since 1998. Now, my career in financial services, that started back in January of 2003 in the final expense life insurance market, where I helped seniors prepare for the last rites. After 3.5 years in that market, I expanded my portfolio by attaining my securities and health license in the later part of 2006 as a part of my journey towards becoming the financial expert that I am today. Now, I'm a big quote guy, and one of my favorite quotes by Albert Einstein is how he describes the universe by saying that the most comprehensible thing about it is that it is incomprehensible. Well, that is the exact same way that I describe what I call the financial universe. The most comprehensible thing about it is that it is incomprehensible. The more you learn about insurance, investments, taxes, concepts, and strategies, the more you realize what you don't really know. Just like the universe, it is nearly impossible to comprehend this vast, never-ending, always expanding thing that I call the financial universe. So the financial universe consists of four main areas. You have life, health, investments, property, and casualty. Now, inside of this universe are multiple galaxies of each component. So you have group life, which is more corporate based, individual life, working with individuals and families, captive, meaning that you only work with one company, or independent, where you work with multiple companies. And you got health group, individual, captive, health independent, property and casualty, and so forth. Then inside of each one of those galaxies are their niche markets. You got Medicare, you've got mortgage protection, you've got final expense, you have long-term care, you have estate planning, and the list goes on and on and on. Folks, in each solar system or sub-niche market, it takes anywhere from about 2 to 5 years before one becomes a true expert. So when a person decides that they want to work in this industry, it's no different than the medical or the law field. What area of medicine do you want to specialize in? Podiatry, cardiology, neurology, oncology? Well, ladies and gentlemen, after 22 years in this business, I have chosen to attain the knowledge and credentials to becoming the financial strategist that I am today. And my purpose is to help you create wealth while protecting your income every step of the way to the age of 100. And I'm here to tell you it's not a bad gig either. What you see up here in the top left, that is an old landline phone that was actually introduced to the world back in the late 1800s. This was the primary source of telecommunications all the way up until about 20 years ago, before wireless phones really started to take over. Now, you see that old flip phone right there on the bottom right. How many of you all had one of those bad boys back in the day? Because I know I did. Now, if you still had one of those flip phones today, my question is, do you think you could accomplish the same things with it that you could with one of today's smartphones? And I think we both know the answer to that. The answer is absolutely not. It's not even close. See, the only thing that you could do with those flip phones back then is make phone calls, send text messages, and that was a challenge within itself. But you could also play a really mean game of Snake or even Minesweep. But with today's smartphones, there's really no limit as to what they can do outside of maybe dispensing toilet paper. Really, it's more like, what can today's smartphones not do. Check this out. With the smartphone, not only can you make phone calls and send text messages, and it's gotten a lot easier in 25 years, let me tell you, but you can also do video calls. You can take pictures. You can access the internet. You can stream music. You can watch TV. You can use it for GPS. You can translate language. You can play games. You can send emails. You can use it as a TV remote control. You can use it as a calculator. You can start your car with it. You can change the settings on your home thermostat from a whole other country. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Folks, think about this. In the last 20 years alone, you can see right there just how much technology has really changed for the better. And it truly is remarkable, to say the least. Now, here's the scary part. 95% of Americans, they are still doing their finances today the same way that people did back when everyone was using landline technology. And it makes absolutely no sense. But here's the good news. This is where modern financial comes into play. As what we're doing is we're bringing disruptive technology to the American consumer, and we are literally changing the landscape in the financial world the same way that these four companies changed the landscape in their respective industry. And it all starts with a little financial education. So buckle up, have a sheet of paper, and have a good working pen in hand, and be prepared to jot down a few notes. So when it comes to retirement, what are your current options? The most common answer that I hear is the good old-fashioned, trusty, reliable 401k. Now, some of you might have access to 403bs, 408es, you might have 457 plans, or other type of IRAs that are out there, but are those your only options? If you were this lady, what road should you travel down? Now, there's a road over here to the left, but she can't see down that road. No. Instead, she sees all her friends, all her family, and all the people that she works with, and all the ways that everybody else does their finances. So she's obviously going to go to the right without ever finding out what is on the road to the left. And our whole mission is to teach people what is on the road to the left. So when it comes to your money, your finances, there are three things that you cannot control, no matter how much you complain, no matter how much you post about it on social media. It is what it is. Starting with number one, loss. When your 401k suffers a loss, who or what controls that? And the answer is the market does. Number two, taxes. Who or what controls taxes? And the answer there, ladies and gentlemen, is the government. Rounding home with number three, who or what dictates the rate of inflation? And the answer is not singular. It's actually multiple. It's a combination of the stock market, the government, and the economy. Now the question is, what happens to your money when blank happens between now and the age of 100? See, that's the way that we plan. We assume that every one of our clients are going to live to the age of 100. And when that's the case, are you prepared financially for any of life's arrows to be shot your way on the way to that journey? Enemies of wealth. What that is, that's anything that can and will take money away from you and your family. So when the taxes go up, when they double, or when you have a major sickness like cancer or heart attack, or when the market goes down, or maybe you get sick again, whether you be 40, whether you're 50, whether you're 60 years old, are you prepared? Or what if you don't get sick and you live all the way to the age of 100? You go all the way in what I call disgustingly healthy. That's not a bad thing either. But see, the problem is you still have all those risk arrows. You still have all those tax arrows. They're all coming at you, and you have zero control over that. So I want to make sure that when something happens to you between now and the age of 100, that you're going to be okay. Are you prepared for the next however many years, whatever your age is, all the way to the age of 100, for any one or combination of these things happening to you? Are you prepared to handle your finances if you get sick? Are you prepared to handle your finances if you get sick more than once or twice or three times? If you need long-term care, if you need tax-free penalty income, or if you die too soon? The bottom line is, are you ready for every single event that could possibly happen to you? In 99% of the cases, the answer is no. 99% of those that we work with, they're like Batman out there fighting the financial crime game in his undies. Now, I'm no Batman fanatic, but I have watched enough Batman movies to know that every time Batman goes out there to fight crime and he comes back to headquarters, he's usually beaten up pretty good from head to toe. So he might be protected with his mask on and he's got his vest on and he's got the sleeves on his arms, but there's still areas of exposure at risk of him getting hit down there at the waist down below. And it's not really a matter of if, but it's a matter of when. As far as those lovely cakes go, whether any of you all ever baked a cake or not, it does not take a genius to know that if you're missing just one ingredient, doesn't matter what that ingredient is, how do you think that cake is going to turn out? Whether it be the eggs, the sugar, the flour, just pick one. Regardless of the item that you're missing, that cake will never produce the desired results without all the key ingredients in their correct measurements. Well, see, what's so special about the financial shield is that without all the right ingredients, you also will not turn out okay financially. I'm here to tell you right now. Sorry to break the news. And so what are those key ingredients? Well, the main ingredient, first of all, it begins with control. You need to be able to control your assets versus letting somebody else control them. And right now, 95% of Americans, they've given up complete control as to what the market does, as to what the government does, and as to what the economy does. People probably like yourself, you're putting your hard-earned money to work, but you're not getting the best that you can for it. And you are not prepared to what happens in your life for the rest of your life all the way to the age of 100. So let's say that you're 35 years old, okay? What that means is that you still have 65 years left on planet Earth that you got to live. So can you honestly say that you have yourself together in the event if you live too long, if you die too soon, or if you got seriously sick or injured along the way? So, all right, at the top of your sheet of paper, I need you to write down what you see there. I need you to write down tax-free, risk-free, and insured strategies. How does that sound so far? Hopefully pretty good. So the one thing I need to make extremely clear right now is for you to understand that 100% of everything that we do is tax-free. 100% of everything that we do is risk-free. And then every strategy that we do, it comes with hundreds of thousands of dollars payable to you in the event if you got seriously sick or injured along the way. Now, how does that sound? I assume pretty darn good. Now what I need you to do is I need you to draw this inverted triangle. Now when you draw this out, I don't want you to make it too small as there will be some items that you're going to write on the inside, but don't make it too large as there will be some items that you're going to write on the outside of it as well. And in the upper left-hand corner, I need you to write down retirement. In the upper right-hand corner of the shield, write down greatest financial asset. And then at the very bottom, I need you to write down TUBA, or the bank of your last name. So for example, the Bank of Westfall. You got it? All right. Let's start with retirement. And let's talk about the future of taxes. So here's the question. Around the age of when you plan on retiring, do you believe that the future of taxes are going to be higher? Do you think it's going to be lower? Or do you think it's going to stay the same? So we're going to stay true to this example of you being 35 years old. Most people plan on retiring somewhere around 60 to 65 years of age. So let's just say 30 years from now. Do you feel that taxes will be higher, lower, or the same as what they are now? Now, I am not trying to put words in your mouth, but out of the thousands of people that we've asked this question to, about 95% of the time, the response that we receive is going to be higher. So I then ask, why do you feel that way? And we're usually met with the response, well, because they always go up. So back to this page. Assuming that that was your answer, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you 5 supporting reasons as to why you are not wrong. Starting with number 1, national debt. Hey, did you know that our national debt grows over $1 million every 20 seconds? That translates to $4.5 billion every single day. Tax cycle, because just like everybody says, taxes go up. They always go up, right? Social Security, number 3. Now, I got another question for you. Anytime that you ever get stuck in traffic, do you know why that happens? It's because there's too many damn cars on the road. And it's the same thing with Social Security. You got too many people living to the age of 100. Social Security was designed all the way back in the 1930s to pay off back then when the average age was much, much lower than what it is today. Social Security was not designed to pay all the way to the age of 100. Now, I think the average lifespan back then for men, it was like mid to late 60s, and women, it was early to maybe mid 70s. But there are more people living to the age of 100 now than ever before since the history of mankind. And guess what? Medicare, it's the same thing as Social Security. It wasn't designed for you to be alive at the age of 100. And then rounding home on number 5, you have the age of 100. So I need you to understand this. It's the combination of people making it to the age of 100. It's the dramatic underpayment into Medicare and Social Security. It's the misunderstanding of the tax cycle and the national debt that's been spiraling out of control for several decades now. That is what's killing our country. These are all major contributing factors to what we call the enemies of wealth. Now, what you see on the screen here, this is a screenshot of the U.S. national debt clock that was taken back on December the 14th of 2024. Now, one piece of interesting facts is that the U.S. debt clock was actually created back in 1989 by the New York real estate developer Seymour Durst. What he wanted to do is highlight the rising national debt, which was nearing $3 trillion at the time. And the clock that he created, it was originally located between 42nd and 43rd Streets in New York City. Now, I am not exactly sure when the usdebtclock.org website was created, but all I do know is that it's been around for as long as I can remember. The two things that I want to point out here is what the national debt was on that date, which was $36,228,000,000,000. You might want to make a note of that. And then over here to the right, you have the debt per taxpayer, which back then was $271,000. Now, let's fast forward to the present. Now, had I held off on this webinar just a few more days, we would have surpassed that 37 trillion mark. But as of today, the current number is $36,936,000,000,000. And again, this number goes up right here. Pay attention. It goes up $1 million every 19.5 seconds, which is just absolutely insane. Folks, that is a $700 billion increase in less than 6 months. Now, to the right of that number over here, what was $271,000 nearly 6 months ago, that shot up to $323,000 per taxpayer. So what does this number mean to you? What this represents is an amount that every U.S. taxpayer would need to pay in order to eliminate the current national debt. Not household, but person. So if you're a married individual, $323,000, that's the amount you would owe. And $323,000 is the amount your spouse would owe. Combined, that's $646,000 total. And to make matters worse, I am 51 years young. So staying true to our 35-year-old example, that means you have lived on this planet 15 years less than I have, but yet you still owe the same amount of taxes that I do in order to fix Uncle Sam's problem. Now, how does that make you feel? So here's the deal. You are never going to get a bill for this amount. So there are only two ways to control the debt. You either stop spending or you got to raise taxes. Which one of those do you think the country is going to do? All right, very, very rarely do I come across anyone that has seen this chart before, but what you are looking at is a chart that shows what the top marginal tax brackets were every single year since the inception of the Federal Reserve in 1913 to the year 2023. Now, going back when I asked the question about the future of taxes and if you think they're going to be higher, lower, or remain the same, around the time that you retire, nearly everyone says that they will be higher. And then when I ask why do they feel that way, the most common answer is because they always go up. But here's the reality check. You see over here in the last 40 years, we have been living in historic lows because what happened back in 1933? Taxes went way up, and it stayed way up for a span of 50 years all the way to the year 1983, which is considered the end of one tax cycle and the start of another. So from 1983 up until now, folks, taxes have actually gone down considerably compared to the 30s, the 40s, 50s, the 60s, and the 70s before Ronald Reagan took office. And from 2016 to the present, taxes are even lower now than they were back in 1983. So right now in the year 2025, we are sitting in one of the lowest tax brackets in the history of taxes since 1913. But guess what? History repeats itself, right, folks? And if you are the government right now and you can't stop spending and you got to raise taxes, what do you think taxes will look like 20 to 30 years down the road? Is it going to look like it has the last 40? Or may it look like it did in the last 50 years prior to that? So the question is, are you ready? Are you prepared? Are you diversified in your taxes? How much money is tax-free? Would you rather have tax-free or would you rather have taxable income? Right now, as long as you are saving or investing your hard-earned money in any government-sponsored retirement plan, you are given the government full and complete control to determining how much money you will be paying them in your retirement. One of our firm's co-founders, Mr. Keith Forrester, he met with Congressman Pete Sessions not too long ago, where Pete went on the record of saying that in order to continue with Medicare and Social Security, at some point, everyone is going to inherit that $36 trillion. By the time that you are watching this, it's already $37 trillion. David McKnight, financial expert, financial advisor, author of the book, The Power of Zero, he basically echoes Pete's claim by stating in his book that according to Congressional Budget Office, if Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, if they go unchanged, the rate for each tax bracket would nearly triple. So think about that, folks. Right now, your current tax bracket, the amount of taxes you pay is on the verge of nearly tripling. So how can we claim this? Because it's already happened, ladies and gentlemen. And who are you giving control of your money to right now? The government. And who's going to determine how much you pay? The government. So unless you love the government or you love Uncle Taxman Sam, you can eliminate him with our platform. So which way are you saving? If I gave you $5,000 right now and I gave you the option to place in bucket number 1, where you would be taxed forever, you could put in bucket number 2, you could delay the tax, and you can let the government tell you how much they're going to take out later. Or number 3, you can put your money in a tax-free bucket and never pay taxes again, whether it be on the growth, on the distribution, and upon your death. Which one of those 3 buckets would you choose? Now, here's another one. In all the years that I've been doing this, no one has ever told me that they won it in the first 2 buckets. But yet, 95% of all Americans, this is where they have their money. They have it in bucket number 1 and they have it bucket number 2. Everyone in America is using a flip phone, old technology, old strategies. And right now, out there is a nice, shiny iPhone 16 with the latest technology, the fastest internet speed, with the best camera lenses, but yet nobody knows that it exists. Think about that for a second. Think about running your business right now. As much as we love complaining about a signal or a drop calls, the internet not being fast enough, imagine if you only knew about, but we're still using a landline phone today that only allows you to make phone calls. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have the iPhone 16, the flip phone, or the prehistoric landline? Right now, you can't do what we do, whether you like technology or not. If you're letting technology just pass you by and you're not able to use your skills to take care of your business, then you're missing out. And that is what's happened in America, folks. The 401k was invented back in the 70s. So what is different about the 401k today? You have more option than the 401k today, but that's about it. It doesn't work any different today than it did 50 plus years ago. So the moral of the story is that if you want tax-free money, then you need to put it in tax-free buckets. It's pretty simple, really. When you retire, do you want taxable or do you want tax-free income? Take your time. I'll let you think on that for a minute. So in the upper left-hand corner of your shield, I need you to write down tax-free. So staying on the subject of retirement, let's talk a little bit about risk. Now, you may or may not know this, but Warren Buffett has two rules when it comes to money. Rule number one, never lose money. What do you think rule number two is? Go back and read rule number one. So, what is it about never losing money do you not understand? You're either losing money or you never lose money. So, we want to make sure that we never lose money. And how we do it is by using something called an index. So when you look at this chart here, I'll let you study it for a few seconds. Which line would you rather be on? If you started with $100,000 24 years ago, and you placed it on the red line, which represents every 401k in the country, what has been happening with your money these last 25 years? It goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up, and it goes down, and it goes up, and it goes down. And folks, it's been doing this for the last 100 years. Now, look at the blue line for a minute. And tell me, what does the blue line do when the red line goes down? It stays flat, right? So after 25 years, can you see how much money is in the blue line? $354,252. And how much money is on the red line? $280,264. Okay. Now, what if I told you that the blue line is tax-free and the red line is waiting for IRS approval for what the tax is going to be? So which line would you choose? See, there is not one single 401k in the country that has access to the blue line. And folks, you could be 50 years old, 60 years old, you could be 70 years old, and you could have never seen this. Or you could be in your 20s, you could be in your 30s, or you could be in your 40s, and you could take advantage of this. But you need to understand not one single 401k has access to the blue line, and you will never see it. So the only way that you're going to get the blue line is you got to put your money in a place that allows your money to get the blue line. And in conjunction with what you put in your triangle, it's got to be tax-free. And in conjunction with what you put in your triangle, it needs to come with hundreds of thousands of dollars of benefits in the event of you getting sick. And guess what? No one else in the country has that with their 401k or any other retirement vehicles. So what does that mean? It means you need to diversify. It doesn't mean that your 401k is bad, okay? But if you have nothing in our program and all your money is wrapped up right here on this red line, then you're subjecting yourself to what we call the enemies of wealth. You have zero control. Now, to further stress the importance of never losing money, let's understand what really happens to your money when the market goes down and the true effects it has on your portfolio. So over here to the bottom right, okay, let's say that you started your 401k and in 1 month you experienced a 100% gain. 100% of $100, that's $200, right? Awesome. Congratulations. However, oh, wait, the following month you experienced a 50% loss. Wah, wah. And 50% of $200, that takes you back down to where you started, $100. So, folks, here's the rule of thumb. Anytime your investment experiences a 25% loss, you'll need a 33% gain just to get back to where you started. 40% loss, you'll need a 66% gain to get back to even. And a 50% loss, you're going to need a 100% gain to get back to square one. Sounds almost like going to the casino where the odds seem stacked against you, but the good news is that you don't have to pay taxes on that investment until you need the money the most in your retirement. Actually, that sounds like a double whammy. And unless you like playing the game, press your luck, we don't want any whammies, right? No whammies, no whammies, and stop. Referring back to my boy Al, another one of his famous quotes is where he says that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Allow me to demonstrate. If you started with a penny today, and for the next 30 days, you doubled it every single day, how much money would you have on the 30th day? Now, this is a real question, so I would like for you to give this a little bit of effort. Pause this for a minute, and I want to see if you can come up with the answer. Okay, most people give me an answer somewhere in the hundreds of dollars. Others will give me an answer somewhere in the thousands, but the real answer is actually $5.3 million. $5.3 million. Now check this out. By day 10, you're a third of the way there and you still only have $5.12. By day 20, two-thirds of the way there, you are now at $5,242.88. But see, where the real magic happens is in the last 4 days. Day 27, you went from $335,544.32 to $671,088.64. Day 28, 1.3 million. Day 29, 2.6 million. And then day 30, $5.3 million. Now think about this. If you extended that just one single day, then on the 31st day, you would go from 5.3 million to over $10 million. And folks, it all started with a single penny 31 short days ago. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the power of compounding. Ever heard of the rule of 72? It's a calculation where you take 72 and you divide it by the interest rate. The result will tell you the number of years it takes for your money to double. So if your interest rate is 4%, then it will take 18 years before that money doubles. This does not take into account market loss and taxes either. This is just assuming the money never experiences any loss or deductions. From 4% to 6%, just a measly 2% spread, most people don't think that that's much of a difference, but in reality, it makes a huge difference. Because at 6%, your money doubled 3 times in 34 years compared to 4%, where it doubled only twice. At 8%, your money doubled 4 times in 34 years. And at 10%, you got to watch your money double 5 different times, basically once every 7.2 years. Pretty exciting, right? Well, off to the right of that chart over here, that is a screenshot from an illustration we run showing the past 20-year performance and the 4 accounts that we use for the index crediting options, broken up into 25% in each segment, where the average return is 14%. Now, please note that past performance, that does not guarantee future results, but I must say those numbers are pretty darn impressive. What's the rule of 72 number on 14%? I'll let you do the math on that. All right, so inside of your triangle, at the bottom, I need you to write in risk-free. As we move on to your greatest financial asset. So, question for you, what do you consider to be your greatest financial asset? I'm going to actually give you a few seconds to think about that, but I really do want you to ask yourself, what is it? Now, the number one most common answer that we hear is a person's home. Sometimes people might say their car, some might say their Bitcoin, which are all fine answers, even though they're not the correct answer. But the correct answer is you and your ability to earn income. The bottom line, folks, is that you are your greatest financial asset. Now, what are you doing to protect it? Probably like most, nothing. This is where living benefits come into play. In the event, if you got extremely sick or seriously injured and you can no longer go to work and earn income, how would that affect you financially? How would that affect your retirement? Here's a little known fact for you. Did you know that the number one source of funds that people tap into and for an emergency use is a 401k? And unless you are over the age of 59 and a half, not only do you get to pay taxes on that withdrawal, you also get to pay penalties too because of an early withdrawal. Now, I want you to stop and think for a moment if you've ever known anyone who was still employed and had a heart attack or a stroke, had cancer, or had a major accident and they lived to tell about it. I'm sure you've known a few people that fit that profile. But I want you to think back to their situation, and I want you to ask, what kind of a financial effect did it have on them? In nearly every case, the result is devastating. Here's a few pretty scary stats for you. Did you know that every 40 seconds, someone in America is having a heart attack? Every 40 seconds, someone is having a stroke. Every 30 seconds, a new cancer diagnosis is made. And every 11 seconds, someone is admitted to the emergency room due to an accident-related event. Now, here's the kicker. 3 out of 4 times, they do not die, but they do live to tell about it, and they suffer a major financial blow as a result of it due to their inability to protect their income. So let me share a few real-life examples of those that this has happened to. Meet the Hendersons, our neighbors who live just 5 houses down from us. Now, we're pretty close to the Hendersons, and not just by proximity, but our families too, as they also have a 13-year-old son who is the same age as our oldest son. They are both friends and they both attend the same school together. Well, May of 2023, my good friend Caleb here, he found out that he had bladder cancer at the young age of 35. It was then his life was turned upside down. During the time of his cancer, there were moments where him and his wife and his family, they had to make several trips all the way up to Minnesota, and they had to go all the way down to Houston, Texas for testing and specialized treatment. Not only did this play a huge mental toll on this precious family, but it also played an enormous financial one on them as well. And to make matters worse, as a part of his treatment, Caleb was prescribed a medication called Humira, and that led to him developing a chronic kidney disease. The good news is that Caleb is now cancer-free, but the bad news is that he will have a chronic kidney disease for the rest of his life, and he received no living benefits, not a single dime. Once it was all said and done, I had met with the Hendersons, and I had them to share their entire story with me. And it was then when I asked them both the question, I said, look, if you had received a check in the amount of $500,000 tax-free, would that have played any kind of a positive role throughout that 2-year nightmare? And both Katie and Caleb, they both said in unison, oh my God. Oh my God. Well, we could have done this and we could have done that, and we wouldn't have to worry about that, and we could have done this, and oh my God, would it have? Once again, we have one of our co-founders, Keith Forrester, the same gentleman that I showed you earlier that met with Congressman Pete Sessions. So yes, that's really Keith in the hospital, and yes, that's his truck. But Keith had to endure several months of physical therapy before he was able to recover from that horrible car accident that nearly took his life. But because of the living benefits that he had in place, he was able to protect his income, and he received a check in the amount of $145,000. Now, this is where it gets a little crazy. The man you see here is, once again, that's Keith Forrester, but this time with his beautiful wife on the skiing range instead of a hospital bed. Now, this picture that you're looking at, that was taken just minutes before Keith's wife, she had a major skiing accident that resulted in 9 different surgeries on her shoulders. See, Keith's wife, she owned and operated a nail salon that generated over $500,000 in annual revenue. Unfortunately, because of her accident, she was no longer able to continue on with her business. But the happy ending here is the fact that she did receive close to $1 million in living benefits. So instead of using her own money that she had been saving up for retirement to live off of, guess what? She used somebody else's money, and it was all tax-free. So be smart. Be like Keith and his wife and protect your most valuable financial asset. Here on the left, those are a few of our clients who both had cancer. but because they both had living benefits to protect their income, they ended up receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you would like to hear their stories, you can pause this video and you can scan those QR codes where you will get a link to watch their story. Now, over here to the right, those are a few first responders who both, unfortunately, they got extremely sick, but neither one of them, they had any living benefits as a part of their benefits package. The saddest part to their story is that young lady right there that's holding her two children. This poor lady, she has stage 4 cancer. And the last that I heard, she was able to find experimental surgery that very well could possibly save her life, but her health insurance, they won't cover it. So the cost, $300,000. Instead, what she got was a GoFundMe account that raised nowhere near what she needs for the surgery. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Those kids that she's holding, they are on the verge of losing their money over what? Money? Folks, a lot of times that's what this can come down to, is a life or death situation, and no one should ever lose their loved one over money. $35 measly a month, that would have saved this lady's life had she known about it. And it's sad. One last example is me, where I have escaped having a chronic illness, not just once, but twice. So yes, both of those vehicles, those are me. This one was my fault. This one was a hit and run here. And the worst that I got out of that was 2 concussions and a 4th broken metacarpal on my left hand as a result of the first accident. But I consider myself extremely lucky, very blessed that I was able to walk away from both of those accidents and live to tell about it. But the reality is that I don't care how young you are, I don't care how healthy you are, you can't control life. And sometimes bad things happen to really good people. So at the end of the day, are you going to insure your depreciating asset, your vehicle, and not protect your most valuable financial asset, which is you and your ability to earn income? It doesn't make sense, folks. Make it make sense for me, because everybody out there is insuring things that do not generate income when the very thing that does generate income is not insured. So here's the bottom line. You, the average American worker, guess what? You are 5 times more likely to suffer a critical illness than actually die before you retire. The average age of a critical illness is 43. The average age of a bankruptcy after a critical illness is age 44. 60% of the bankruptcies in the U.S., they are a direct result of a critical illness, and then all those medical expenses that immediately follow. Even if you already have health insurance, there are deductibles, co-insurances, maximum out-of-pockets, things like that that you are still exposed to and you are responsible for. 3 out of 4 people, 75% of folks over the age of 40, they are going to experience a critical illness at some point in their future. So for me, at the end of the day, it's not a matter of if, but it is a matter of when. Eventually, something's going to break. And what are you going to do about that?
Age of 33, I never thought that I would get sick with cancer.
I felt great. I felt fine. I mean, there was no problems.
I am an avid gym goer. I was really in great health.
We're faithful people. I was like, that's not going to happen to us. It's not going to happen. So when it did happen, it was like, it took our breath away.
They called to let me know that I was diagnosed with stage 2-3 breast cancer.
A melanoma.
And that's when they told us they found a tumor.
I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have cancer.
We got him into a local oncologist to take a look at him, and he went straight to surgery.
When she looked at me in the eye and said, I had other patients who have had this same thing and they've lived at least 5 years. And that's when it hit me.
When your family's hit with cancer like that, it turned your whole world upside down.
We knew it was there in the back of our mind. We never thought about it. We just made our monthly premiums.
There were several alternative treatments that without the living benefits policy, we never would have been able to afford.
There's a lot of things associated with cancer that the insurance companies do not cover.
Sure, I had insurance, And insurance is great, and I have very good insurance. I mean, I think my out-of-pocket costs were at least $30,000 for that year.
We had the mortgage, we had the car payments, we had private school tuition, we had credit card bills, groceries, okay?
When you're not working and when you don't have an income, things like that are very important.
There were thousands of dollars that we were able to rely on that living benefits policy for.
They actually paid out $343,000.
Nothing that I had financially could cover that other than the living benefit plan.
To have that policy just like that, it means the world.
Had I not had that, I don't think I would be here today.
All that worry, stress, it just evaporated instantly.
You just don't know what tomorrow brings.
It gave me so many different options. Without that money, who knows where we'd be.
That's the power of the living benefits. It's very powerful.
That's the sad part. Nobody knows that these benefits exist. America does not realize what their greatest financial asset is, and I have a solution for that. America doesn't realize that their retirement does not come with a bunch of living benefits, and that it doesn't provide tax-free income, and that it doesn't provide risk-free income, and it doesn't provide hundreds of thousands of dollars in living benefits. And it's the living benefits, folks, that's what protects your income. So by educating you and restructuring what you are already currently doing, you would then have full control with everything balanced and prepared for any of life's events to be thrown your way. All right, so in the upper right-hand corner, let's fill in that shield by writing down insured living benefit, which now brings us to the dessert on our menu, the icing on the cake, if you will. And let's talk about the banking strategy that we call TUBA, the ultimate bank account, or bank of your last name, as mine is called the Bank of Westfall. Who do you guys know that makes a profit by paying their bills? Probably no one, right? Well, right now, there are only 3 things that you can do with your bank. You can deposit money, you can borrow money, and you can withdraw money. However, with TUBA, this financial tool creates wealth by doing what you're currently doing every single day, which is spending your money and paying your bills. Here's a question. When you deposit money in your bank account, what does the bank do with your money? Okay, if your answer is they hold it, you would be incorrect. However, if you said, well, they lend it out to other people, then you would be correct. So my next question is, what do they give you at the end of the year after they invest your money? The majority of people I ask this question to, they usually respond with nothing or a fraction of nothing, which is also correct for the most part. But here's the part that's really going to chap your hide. How much do you think the bank is making off of your money? Usually I hear anywhere from 5 to maybe 20%. But what if I were to tell you that you're way off? If that's what you were also thinking. How about this? How about anywhere between 1 and 3,000%? Yes, you heard me correct. 1 to 3,000%. It is absolutely insane. And all by doing what? Leveraging other people's money. That's all they do. For me, the more that you learn about the banking system and how it really works, the more you realize it is probably the largest legal scam in American history, as the financial system, it's structured to take full advantage of you and literally bleed you dry. So how would you like to turn the tables, flip that script, and beat these banks and financial institutions at their own game by using the banking system to earn money on your expenses? For example, let's say you went to Starbucks and you purchased one of their overly priced cappuccinos, and that cost came out to $10. You then whip out your debit card, you insert that thing into the payment terminal where the money goes from your bank to their bank. Now, how much money did you make on that transaction? Nothing, right? That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call lost opportunity cost. Not only did you lose money on that transaction, but you also purchased a depreciating asset. You consumed your purchase and you disposed of the cup that it was served in. You have now parted ways with that money, and the entire purchase will never earn you a penny more for the rest of your life. And folks, the same holds true with basically everything else that you spend your money on. Buying gas, paying your bills, buying groceries, taking vacations. The bottom line here is that every time you spend money, you're not just losing money, but you're also losing opportunities to earn money that will compound with interest over time when it doesn't have to be that way. So how would you like to gain back control of your money instead of loaning it to the bank so that way they can turn around and earn somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000% on every dollar that you put in? Well, I'm one of the few people in this world that can actually show you how.
Well, hi there. If you're watching this video, I bet two things are true. One, you're alive. And two, you have expenses. But do you know how much those expenses are worth? Did you know that you could turn all of your expenses into cash income? That's right. And if you could actually leverage your expenses into a revenue stream, how quickly would you want to learn how? I mean, what if you had been compounding 3% earnings on all your expenses since you were 18 or even younger? How much money might you have today? What if your ability to start earning an average of 3% on every dollar you spend was right here today? And what if the results could be an additional $50,000 or $100,000 per year in retirement income? If that has your attention, keep watching and I'm going to show you how. You see, just one little change in how you choose to flow your money out of your hands and then to others is all it really takes to open up this additional income stream. One small change, huge results. Want to know exactly what that one small change is? I kind of thought you would. Okay, let's talk about your money. The money you work hard for, the long hours, maybe even multiple jobs money, or that hard-earned business money. Yeah, that money that seems to go out as quickly as it comes in. You know what I'm talking about, right? So where's your money's first stop? Your bank, right? And they simply hold it. But they also loan it out, invest it, pass it around, and wait for other money to come back in so it's there when you need it. I mean, you know they don't have your money in a box or in the vault with your name on it, just waiting for you to withdraw it or for you to swipe your card and ask for it to go to the merchant, right? No, it just sits there on their bank rolls, their ledger, and they just account for it. And because people like us don't know any better, the banks hold us hostage by just keeping track of how much they need to keep available. All the while, they make lots of money with all of our money. Yeah, this game is starting to make a lot more sense now, isn't it? See, it's one of the biggest reasons we're not getting ahead, but don't worry, it all stops now. I'm going to teach you how to play the game to win. Now let's talk about a typical banking flow of money. You work hard, and when you get paid, it goes straight to your bank. Let's call that bank your primary bank. So what if you gave the primary bank a bump to the right and put your own personal bank in first place? What if you own, let's just say, the Bank of Me, and the expenses part of your revenue took a brief stop in your bank? Now, after a very short stay at the Bank of Me, your money would then go on to your primary bank so you could begin to distribute money to pay those expenses. Just one little change, but since your money was parked in your bank first, you actually position yourself to make an average of 3% on all the money you move from your bank back to the primary bank. And that's how you convert expenses into revenue. It's a tried and true banking strategy rooted in an arbitrage model, and I bet you're wondering just how it all works. Well, that's what I do. I show you how to use particular and specific financial tools so that you can have your own personal bank. That means your car payment, rent or mortgage, food, your clothes, those really nice shoes, credit card payments, your spa and salon, gas for your car, daycare, utilities, that stupid transmission repair, vacations, birthdays, education, medical expenses, student loan debt can all be positioned to earn revenue. Now, although I tried, I know I didn't list all the possible expenses. Just know that if it's an expense that you paid after your money went into your personal bank first, you position yourself to earn revenue on that expense. That one small change makes a huge difference in how you cross the financial finish line. And the sooner you start earning money in your sleep, the sooner you reach those financial goals. We've all heard that wonderful piece of advice that says you have to learn how to pay yourself first. But how many of you really knew how to until now? If this is all starting to make some sense, get back to the person who shared this video and see if your own personal bank is ready and waiting for you.
So it's not just us saying this. There are all kinds of books that are out there that talk about what we just went over, but the difference here is that everything that you can read up on, it focuses in on just one of the three parts of the shield. None of these books focuses on all three parts of the shield at the same time. For those who decide to move forward in the process, once we create a financial plan proposal for you, we will simply show you our menu, and you can order what you want on the menu or nothing at all. For some, they might elect the appetizer and the main course, or they could skip the appetizer and have the main course and the dessert. You could have just the dessert or just the appetizer. You could have all three. The choice is yours. Another thing to point out is for those who are just about to retire or recently retired, but extremely concerned about what you have in place, the tax burden you now have, or just simply running out of money. So we also do a lot of retirement rescue missions as well, and we offer a free, no obligation review of your current situation in order to see if we can rescue your retirement and improve your situation. If you're a new family with small little ones crawling around, we also have programs for your children that are superior to the traditional 529 plans that provides incredible returns with all kinds of flexibility that'll provide your child with numerous financial options as they get older. So how do you become more tax efficient? Well, you got to divert more money to tax-free accounts to prevent taxes. 2, you got to divert money into index accounts to prevent loss. And then 3, you must make sure that you are always protecting your income all the way on that journey to the age of 100. It's a combination of 3 programs and a combination of what you're doing every single day. Every day you're spending money on bills. Every day you're putting money away in retirement, assuming that you are. Remember, as long as you follow and you go through the system, you do not control losses, you do not control taxes, and you do not control inflation. And once it's all said and done, you're going to look like this guy right here, protected from head to toe, carrying around a big bag of money everywhere you go. On the road from where you are today, taking you all the way to the age of 100, we got your back. This concludes the Financial Shield webinar. Now, if you'd like to see how these strategies could work for you and your family, then the next step is to schedule a one-on-one session with me by clicking the link in the description of this video that will take you directly to my calendar. In our first session, we will accomplish 2 things. Number 1, I will spend about another 20 to 30 minutes educating you more on how the bank process actually works. And then number 2, I will collect some data from you in order to get a 5,000-foot aerial view of your finances, but nothing super deep or too intense. I look forward to an opportunity to work with you. Be sure to have a great rest of your day.